Everybody knows how to develop a quarterback. You're assuming that you're going into a program. I mean, I'm telling you, this is not, there's a lot of people who have no idea what they're doing when they're tasked with coaching a quarterback or calling an offense. So are you saying, I mean, just like we'd rank quarterbacks 1 to 32, do you rank offensive coordinators 1 to 32? Do you rank quarterback coaches 1 to 32? Well, what if you have the 32nd ranked coordinator in someone's mind, or the 32nd ranked quarterback coach? How is he getting a level of development that the guy who's first is getting?
Tom Brady reportedly went into full detective mode and accused Cleveland of undermining Shedeur Sanders, causing the NFL to freeze mid-scroll. Yes, you heard correctly. Fans are wondering if the Browns are a franchise or a spy organization after Brady, the man who treats footballs like Faber eggs, revealed some shocking information. If Brady is accusing sabotage, then something crazy is happening in Cleveland, so grab your popcorn. It's not simply poor play calling, either.
The local Cleveland media keep going relentless on Shedeur Sanders. He entitled, distracted, developing slow, can't learn the playbook, not getting practice reps with the scout team, not getting practice reps at all. But what if I told you? Then don't none of that got to do nothing with football. This goes deeper than people realize. If y'all ain't seen the Tom Brady came out on Colin Cowherd, now this is pertaining to the Browns saying they developing quarterback.
For this one, the NFL was unprepared. Yes, the football monk of perfection, Tom Brady, recently assumed the role of the league's unofficial accountability officer and focused his intense attention on Cleveland. The same Cleveland that, despite their best efforts to remain silent, manages to garner media attention. It had nothing to do with a quarterback carousel, a rebuild, or a loss this time.
I sat behind Drew, who was a franchise quarterback, right? In my second year, it's training camp, and we had a very good quarterback coach named Dick Rabine, and God rest his soul, unfortunately, he passed away in training camp and of a heart attack. And it was a very difficult loss for our team. And the way that we found a way to continue on that season is Bill Belichick became more of a quarterback coach than we ever imagined him being a quarterback coach. He was obviously a head coach, very involved in defensive game planning.
No, not at all. It has to do with something more juicy. The league as a whole choked on its Gatorade after Brady accused them of undermining Shedeur Sanders. You would think that Tom Brady, the man who could teach a tree about discipline, would be retired and enjoying kale smoothies while feigning a love of yachting.
So, it's either the Browns are actually developing Shedeur, which I told y'all before too. They actions say otherwise. But Tom Brady gonna break it down in how he got developed and early on in his career, eventually lead him to 7 Super Bowls. So if quarterback's not getting developed, anything similar to this?
However, it seems that a man who can spot absurdity from a distance cannot be silenced by retirement. Furthermore, he observed more than simply incompetence in Cleveland. It was a football program disguised as a full-fledged organizational circus. Brady claims that there is a strange double standard in the NFL. Every second, players are evaluated like competitors on a reality show.
Let's give him a chance. Let's give him a chance with the play calling. You know you have an offensive line that isn't playing that well. So what do? Why not just play the short game so he can get the ball out of his hands very fast to run a competent goddamn offense? Outside of that, Shedeur has to be better in understanding that the offensive line that you're working with right now is not adequate. Why not allow the players that are competing for a job, in this instance Shedeur Sanders, to finish off the 2 minutes?
Every misread, every throw, and every stride is examined as if it were a matter of national security. However, the coaches are viewed like untouchable wizards. Even though they can run an attack into a ditch, they manage to maintain their reputation as visionaries. Brady would have none of it. He essentially stated what everyone has been afraid to acknowledge. If a laminated playbook were thrown at some of these coaches, they wouldn't understand player development. Shedeur Sanders can help with that. While his coaches skate off without any heat, the child has been dissected more than a biology frog. Cleveland somehow made his NFL transition appear more like a well-planned setup than an opportunity. Imagine being thrust into a new system where your coaches question your preparedness after treating development as a myth. It's similar to being told to make a cake without flour and then being reprimanded for serving air. That is Shedeur's current reality. Brady was also not going to overlook it. The Cleveland coaching staff has been acting as though none of this is their fault. They assess, grade, and criticize. However, it's difficult to find out who truly collaborated with Shedeur. There isn't a single coach that will acknowledge that they spent time with the child.
But I'm going to answer this question by saying Shedeur Sanders. And I'm going to tell you why. I think he's being set up to fail. That's right, I'm going to say it. Okay. Here we are on national television, right? There's been 11 practices, if I remember correctly. He's been starting against, he's been playing against the third unit. He's fourth on the depth chart. And then suddenly you throw him into the start lineup, and he hasn't had any reps with the first team at all. Think about that. So you just gonna throw him to the wolves like that, huh? I mean, you know, if he had first team snaps in practice, I don't say that.
Giving a player a helmet and best wishes seems to be the Browns' definition of development. When everything goes wrong, they shrug and remark, "See, he's not ready." Brady was able to see through that bullshit. When he sees talent, he recognizes it. Additionally, he recognizes when a team's atmosphere is poisonous. The same individual who elevated underappreciated receivers to legendary status is able to identify instances in which coaching staff members are neglecting their duties. He believes that Shedeur's lack of readiness is not Cleveland's issue. It's because they didn't care to prepare him. And that's when the delightfully awkward part begins. People listen to Brady when he speaks, even the ones he just roasted. The Browns attempted to turn it around. Naturally, the standard PR gibberish about development, evaluation, and competitiveness. However, when your purported developmental plan appears to be more like organized neglect, those statements seem hollow. But it's humorous. Until it's time for them to be held accountable, coaches always enjoy preaching about accountability. He essentially likened the mentality of NFL coaching to a corporate office where managers are promoted for turmoil while interns are fired for typos. Shedeur is the most recent victim of this broken cycle.
I always had this theory that quarterbacking should be easier now. You have personal coaching, 7-on-7 camps. I mean, guys like you and Drew Bledsoe and Troy Aikman have told me, like, I literally had 8 high school games a year. You're like, I had 40 starts, including high school. Well, guys now have 10,000 snaps by the time they're 14 years old. So I've always said as a sports commentator, I used to give guys 3 years. My argument now is Thanksgiving year 2, the GM, the coach, the coordinator need to go upstairs in a room privately, raise their hands, yes or no. And I don't care.
In actuality, Cleveland's inconsistent coaching has been known for years. They are training a quarterback, according to one individual. Someone else remarks, "We're evaluating." Someone else can't even recall his name. Every staff gathering seems to have a distinct agenda, and none of them genuinely aim to improve the player. Brady's remark struck a chord because everyone in attendance is aware of its veracity. And just when you thought this tale couldn't get any dirtier, the man who transforms anger into performance art, Stephen A. Smith, enters the picture. Stephen A. didn't simply agree with Brady's remarks. He exploded. For months, he had been alerting everyone to the fact that Shedeur's circumstances smelled like sabotage. That isn't an opportunity. Entrapment is what that is. It's similar to throwing someone the car keys in the middle of a tornado and telling them to show us what you can do. When everyone you train with is vying for practice squad slots, it is impossible to develop rhythm, timing, or leadership.
That call. He makes that call. Why? Because I want the last thing people to see is the mistakes and the sacks that happen and not give him a chance to redeem himself. Because I think probably what would have happened, okay, we can't have Shedeur come in here and finish this 2-minute drive and go down and get a touchdown. We don't want that. And in chat, for those of you who are listening and watching, I'm not making an excuse for him. He played bad. But I can tell you why he played bad. I mean, if you know the game of football and understand the game of football, understand that those that are in there with him during that time, I'm not going to be on the team.
Louis Riddick intervened to intensify the situation. You know, when Riddick enters a discussion, things are going to turn awkward and analytical. He also didn't sugarcoat things. Although he acknowledged Shedeur's potential, he attacked the Brown family's purported strategy. Riddick claims that there was no structure, no intent, and no representatives. To put it another way, the entire situation seemed absurd. He expressed the opinions of the fans. This was not progress. It took longer than expected. Riddick went one step further. He noted that other rookie quarterbacks were receiving patience, coaching, and regular reps. In a playbook that resembled a puzzle, Shedeur was left to solve problems on his own. Being the sole person who doesn't understand the entire rhythm of the offense makes it impossible to perform. Not just one individual, but every photo turns into a high-stakes audition. The quiet told it all. He is effectively an orphan in the organization if no one in the leadership truly stood up for him. There was no one supporting him, no one mentoring him, and no one responsible for his accomplishments. That's a certain way to ruin your career. The cherry on top appeared next. The scene that turned the entire story into a football soap opera.
Why is the third quarterback getting interviewed? You got nothing to do with the game. Okay, it's all for media clicks. And he's a heck of a personality, but the personality can't come out till you do something on the field. And it's a big week for Dylan Gabriel and a big week for the Browns. I mean, making that transition for him even be available to the press. I don't know why he's doing it.
You tell me, you know how that works. Is that the front office? Is that the comms team? Like, who's putting him out? So we're saying it's not really on him. We have to protect him. He's a young player.
Yep.
Why are we making him available?
Exactly. To me, I mean, there's no sense to have him available.
The owner of the Browns, Jimmy Haslam, nonchalantly acknowledged that he was unaware of Shedeur's signing. Not one. He essentially stated that he gave the coaching staff complete control over that choice. Now, how can an owner be unaware of the addition of his own quarterback? It's not management. In a lawsuit, that is negligence. All of a sudden, Brady's remarks made much more sense. When the people in charge of the show don't even know who is in charge, how can a player succeed? "Oh, we adopted a kid," was how Lamb's admission sounded. Excellent. I hope all is good with him. An NFL franchise is not built that way. That's how chaos is created. And wait until Stephen A. hears it if you believe he was previously heated. Like a storm, he let loose. Everyone was too kind to acknowledge what he said. I had no idea that it wasn't an accident. It was a tactic. The ideal method of avoiding responsibility while acting like you're not our guy. The story of another young quarterback is abruptly changed before it ever starts. Suddenly, Brady's outburst appeared more like an epiphany than a tirade. He wasn't just standing up for Shedeur. He was standing up for all the young quarterbacks that these kinds of systems devour.
He get thrown in there with the wolves, because the real wolves come during the season. Pittsburgh is coming. Baltimore is coming. The real wolves is coming. Now, I am praying to God that Shedeur gets an opportunity to show what he can really do. And I think that would be probably the best thing for him. But knowing the Cleveland Browns, they dumbass gonna trade him.
Coaches in the league frequently employ the same justifications, feigning to assess talent while never placing it in a place where it may flourish. Shedeur is now the ideal illustration of how flawed that formula is. Ironically, Brady was previously in Shedeur's position. He was undervalued, drafted low, and received few reps. The distinction is that Bill Bitch, his coach, genuinely believed in player development despite his personal peculiarities. Perhaps the world would never have seen the GOAT if Brady hadn't been given that opportunity. That's precisely why his remarks hurt so badly. He is a living example of the need of development and is able to spot when a player is being deprived of it. A culture where coaches hide behind catchphrases and athletes are held accountable for everything. He criticized the ridiculousness of allowing inexperienced coaches to choose who is worthy of an opportunity. The entire situation seems more like a headset-based ego battle than a meritocracy.
I've heard ex-players talk about Shedeur. I've heard ex-NFL coaches. I've heard media members, meaning like beat reporters. I've heard fans talk about Shedeur. And it's funny, I was on with my buddy Bill Ryder today, and I declared myself as Switzerland. And he's like, well, it sounds like you're more like, maybe, I can't remember what he said, but basically then more positive about Shedeur than not. And I was like, well, I think some of my positivity is I look at the kid and I go, skill set wise, I think he has what it takes to be anywhere from the 13th best starting quarterback in the NFL.
What's even funnier, you ask? In fact, Cleveland's coaches believed they could discreetly sideline Shedeur without anyone noticing. As if the entire football world isn't keeping an eye on every tiny change, every depth chart shift, and every snap. Then Brady spoke, and all of a sudden their plan appeared to be more of a cover-up than management. It is almost poetry. Brady, who flourished in a structured environment, is now criticizing the system that won't create it. He resembles the retiring professor who returns to the classroom and discovers that the students are still being taught the same antiquated material that he battled to correct 20 years ago. However, millions of dollars are at risk in the career of a rookie quarterback this time. Furthermore, let's not act as though Shedeur is a random prospect. The young man has swagger, talent, and pedigree. He's not only having fun. Most likely, the Browns coaching staff will make it through this. They will hold news conferences, discuss modifications, and use terms like learning curve and growth. That's what you ask for, listen. That's what you ask for in the game, you know. Tom Brady's remarks will reverberate throughout every locker room until that game is changed. If I could go back and do anything. Perhaps it's time to start rebuilding the coaches if they are unable to develop their players.